What really fires you up? On today's show, the founder of YourOneDegree.com, a man by the name of Dave Jewitt, joins us to share why it's important to find out what really, truly does fire you up, what truly unleashes your passion, and what you uniquely were born to do. However, what truly wears you out? What drains your energy? On today's show, Dave Jewitt, the founder of YourOneDegree.com, shares how to find your personal path and the importance of finishing well.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes! Thrive Nation, you are in for a very special occasion because on today's show, we have a guest who's been twice referred. Twice referred. What does that mean? Well, the CFO of the billion-dollar company, Helmerich & Payne. Wes, are you familiar with Helmerich & Payne? Is this a real company?
I have heard of that company before.
Okay, the former CFO of the company, Doug Fears, says, this guy, Dave Jewitt, today's guest, this guy knows his stuff. And then Corey Minter, who we have on the show from time to time, the founder of Trinity Employment, he says, this guy knows his stuff. And so on today's show, we have Dave Jewitt joining us to talk about finding your path for finishing well. Dave Jewitt, welcome to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
It's great to be here.
I got to ask you, because our listeners want to know, when they go to your website, YourOneDegree.com, what is Your One Degree all about?
Well, it's really of the 360 degrees you can go in life. We believe there's one degree for you, your particular purpose, your sweet spot.
So your sweet spot.
Your sweet spot.
And by default, where are people going? Do you think people are going in the other 359 potential degrees, or what do you think people are doing by default?
Well, let's just say most of them are doing 40 degrees.
40 degrees. Okay. And so I'm going to pick on Josh with Living Water Irrigation. I'm going to pick on you.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to run you through Dave Jewitt's program here.
I'm ready.
Whether you want it or not.
Okay.
You're going down. So you were a startup how many years ago?
Just about 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And for the first 6 months, it's like, I hope I sell something.
Yes, sir.
And then you kind of move into, I think I'm selling some things. And then all of a sudden the pipeline's full. Now you got 3 years in now the business is cresting over about a $2 million business, and it's growing. Things are good. We got the compound referrals coming in. You got the snowball going.
Yes, sir.
Was there any point during that path that you thought, maybe, am I going the right direction? Did you ever have that thought?
Honestly, because of the support of my wife and because I knew that this is what we're supposed to do, I honestly didn't, but there was a whole lot of times where I wondered whether or not we were going to eat.
Now, Wes, you went to law school for how long did you go to school to become an attorney, or did you do one of those overnight Puerto Rican
We mailed
become
in
an
the
attorney program?
certificate online. No, 3 years of law school, 4 years of undergrad, and then, all the other years of schooling.
So did you ever have a moment during that path where you're going down the path where you thought to yourself, is this what I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, especially after law school, school always kind of was a natural for me. It's something I enjoyed, something I was good at. So when you get out and start practicing and trying to find what area you're going to practice in, it's probably once a month, once every other month, you wonder, where am I going? What am I doing?
I think, to Kendall, if we can get a look at this on the camera real quick, I'm going to pull it up on the big screen. When you're Wes Carter, one of the issues that you have is you have a fallback position at all times. Like a lot of us guys, I don't have a fallback position, But Wes, the male modeling thing has been always a fallback. This is some of Wes's earlier work here. It looks a lot like Fabio.
That was early 90s, wasn't it, Wes?
Yeah, that was.
So you always have that fallback position. I could see where it'd be hard to determine a path. Dave, there's got to be listeners out there right now who feel like by default that they're not headed the right direction. So before you give them some direction, let's talk about your path. You've had a lot of success now. A lot of people refer to you as their mentor, as a guide that helped lead them down the path. What was your path? How did your career start? Just walk us through kind of your early career.
Yeah, like many, I graduated from college, a great business school, and I really took a 2-year vacation from business. I got really involved in helping people, figuring out how to help people grow in their life. And about 2 years later, I ended up working for a large corporation, and I kind of drifted into the supply chain business, and I really liked it. I don't know that I was super at it, but I really enjoyed business. I enjoyed the relating to people, solving business problems, negotiating contracts. So I did that for a number of years, but along the way, I would spend my mornings usually helping men grow in their faith, grow in their walk as men, as husbands and as parents. So those two things were working together to lead into where I am today.
The statistics are not awesome, but I will put them on the show notes. According to the Washington Post right now, 78% of men have cheated on their spouse. You've got Psychology Today is showing half of marriages. We all know the stats. Half the marriages end in divorce. There's not a lot of positive stats there. I have met guys who have gone through the 1 Degree program who have told me this thing was the best thing for my marriage. This thing was the best thing for me as a man. And again, this is a show. People tune into the show for practical tips, and somebody might say, you're making the show woo-woo, man. You're making the show woo-woo. But at the end of the day, I mean, a great financial tip is don't lose half your net worth by ruining your marriage or, So talk to me. When you say you're holding the guy, you're helping a guy lead him down the path or help him on his Christian walk, or you're kind of, what does that mean?
Well, you start to develop a relationship with these men, and they finally start to trust you with what's going on in their life. And now they finally have a guy who will call their stuff. I mean, I'll call them on things, but I'm leading them down a path of how do you live? How do you relate to your wife? How do you relate to your kids? And really it's so important. A lot of guys are just drift into wrong thinking about themselves, about life, and a lot of times because they're living outside of who they are. They're just trying to be somebody else because of something they heard or learned along the way. And when you live outside of who you are, it's going to cause problems.
When you say guys tend to drift into wrong thinking, I'm just going to throw out some heavily non-motivational statistics. Here we go. I'll put links to all this stuff. So Live Strong reports that 4 to 6 million men are problem gamblers in a country of 330 million Americans. 1 in 8 adult Americans is an alcoholic. Again, the average American's watching 5 hours of TV a day. There's so many stats where you go. 70% of people hate their jobs, according to Gallup. What is the most common wrong thinking that you have found as you're sitting down with dudes who are in their, 40s usually, mid-30s? Where do you find the wrong? What is the most common wrong thinking that you have found?
They are not enough. They feel like they've got to prop themselves up with something. They for some reason they don't feel like they have enough to contribute. They're living in the past with their past mistakes. They aren't looking forward in their life. They don't really know who they are. That's kind of a core thing.
This is common?
Absolutely. Very common. Even the brightest of guys I meet with, they don't have an adequate knowledge of who they really are. Not just in terms of their abilities or their personality, but what's their story really about? Do they really understand what their story is? Have they embraced their story, good or bad story? And
now, when Corey told me about you and Doug, I didn't get into private conversations you had with him, nor am I going to ask about him. All I know is they said, he's real with me. He was real with me. He was real with people I know. What does that mean? It not related to those two guys at all, but I'm just saying, if that could be a fly on the wall, is this like a one-on-one thing? Are we going to some group thing? Are we going to like a camp? Where do these real talks begin?
Well, it has really helped me to walk along in life the last 30 years with a group of guys, about 4 or 5 guys.
Okay.
We have shared annually we do a timeline of our life.
Okay.
We spent about an hour and a half with each other once a year talking through our life. And as you do that over 30 years, you start to become very real with them. And I think the premise is if you go deep with one man, you know all men better. And but I have become very comfortable with who I am. Faults, strengths, weaknesses, mistakes I've made in the past. And I've actually learned that if I am open with that, people will benefit from my life. If I try to pretend to be somebody else, they're going to really miss out on the richness of what I have to offer as a person. And I believe that about all people.
Now, one of the things you said earlier was, I think I heard it right. It was an accountability aspect. So, entrepreneurs, small business owners, they're not used to answering to anyone else a lot of times. And so is that accountability a big part of that? I mean, just to, you said, call them on their stuff. I mean, do they not realize sometimes that they're just drifting along or they're not finding their purpose? Or do you find that they're, just kind of deluding themselves, fooling themselves? Or are they just wandering around? I mean, where does that accountability come in?
Probably a combination of both. But the accountability is we all have to learn how to be teachable.
Yeah.
Even with your kids, I think one of the first time I had to apologize to my 4-year-old was a kind of a breakthrough. Hey, son, I blew it, and how I handled you. But that teachability in life, and then learning how to do it with adults, and so you want to be open to input, and then when you get close to a bunch of men who really know you, when I get with these guys, I don't tell them what I'm doing. I tell them what I'm thinking about doing and give them an opportunity to speak into it. And boy, that has saved me so many missteps. Not that I haven't had some, but I've have a whole lot less. And by the way, the accountability, what I've learned is I can't just have accountability. I have to have inspiration with those guys. I'll keep showing up for inspiration. I probably won't keep showing up for just accountability.
Now, your website, Your One Degree, on there's all sorts of things people can find that you've written. They can hear more about the program. But I want to know, when did you have the idea that, maybe I should start this thing, and this thing should be my thing? This 1 degree should be your 1 degree. When did you discover this is going to be your passion project?
Well, along the way, what's great about being older is you have a lot of data in your life, and you get a chance to see what has worked, what hasn't worked. And I like to say you've learned how to hit home run. I mean, singles and doubles, a lot of good accomplishments. But where are the home runs? Where are the things when you do some of what you do, something special really happens? And I started to see a pattern of when those things were happening, especially in my late 40s. And I started to shape a message that I was learning about how to help a guy really understand who he is. He's more than just abilities. There's at least 6 aspects of who he is. And so as you experiment with giving material, giving insight to people, you start to see what works with you and what works with your target audience. And also you also start to figure out what really is your best target audience.
Who is your best target audience?
My best target audience are guys who are asking questions bigger than, how do I find a good job? I want them to figure out, how do I find the best life? And I believe that's wrapped up in understanding really who you are and then stewarding it. I want to become a master steward of who I am. I can't be anybody else. When I try to be somebody else, I screw it up. So how do you help a guy really understand who he is and then how to best leverage it for purposes bigger than himself, especially?
I read Phil Jackson's book, 11 Rings, and it's a phenomenal book, by the way. If you get a chance to read Phil Jackson's book, he's kind of like he's like a philosopher that just happens to coach basketball. But at the end of the book, the very end of the book, he's talking about his coaching career and kind of he's putting a title almost on like his life story. It's like a summary quote, and he says he has found that most people spend their entire life seeking the one thing they can only find at home. And I thought, that's something.
It's powerful.
So I personally came to the conclusion at the age of 27, much I can learn, is that I don't like to travel, but I thought I wanted to because that's what I was told. You make a bunch of money. What you got to do is you got to go to San Diego. You got to go up to L.A. You got to see the redwoods out there in San Francisco. You got to go see Seattle. You got to fresh fish, ring the go, ding, 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 ding. Do that. You got to go to Colorado. You got to go to Jackson Hole. You got to go to Boulder. You got to go to Denver. You got to do that. You got to go skiing. Got to do the Crest of Butte. Got to do Breckenridge. You got to go up to Minneapolis. You got to go see the Metrodome. Got to see a Vikings game. You got to go up to Toronto this time of the year. It's amazing. Got to go to the Boundary Waters. Got to do that. Need to go check out Louisville, the fireworks. Need to go see the Derby. You got to go down to Florida. You got college football. Got to see it live. Alamo, got to see it. This is where they all died. You got to go down there to the Riverwalk. You need to see this. You need to go see the Bricktown Riverwalk. It's kind of a poor man's Riverwalk, but it's a Riverwalk. You need to go see Chicago, Wrigley Field. You got to do it one time. You got to see the Nuts on Clark, get some food there. You got to get some barbecue in Kansas City. Got to go to Manhattan. Got to see Chinatown, Little Italy. Got to see all that. And when you see all that, by the way, Long Island, the Hamptons, need to go see. Well, I've done all that.
So that was a tour of the United States of America.
No
Thank
kidding.
you, Clay.
But I did it all before I was 27. So I got to the end of it and I said, I want off this ride. And I didn't know what that meant. So I started marinating on it, reading Phil Jackson books, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, I love a man cave. So this man cave, if I were to describe it to the listeners who can't see, Kendall, maybe you can film some of it, but it's just black sheetrock. I've got concrete floors, and I've got, thousands of trees out back in a fun little staycation area. Books everywhere. 5 wonderful kids upstairs and a wonderful wife. And I've just found that the stuff that I want is only here. I don't want to go anywhere. Now, I'm not ripping you if you want to go somewhere, but discovering that for me, that which I wanted was at my own house, and it's cheap. Like, this room is so cheap. This room, it got flooded there, Super Dave. It got flooded, and the insurance guy comes in, and the rest of the house is built like a normal house. But he looks at it, and he says, it was pretty bad, pretty dramatic flooding. I saved all the books and stuff. But $17,000, I rebuilt my entire habitat. It's like I live in a bunker. But I'm just saying, as I think somebody out there is thinking, once I make $1 million, then I'll be somebody. Once I have 2 locations of my business, then they keep doing that, and then I see it all the time with my clients because I help them grow their business. I don't help them grow their life at all. I don't do what Dave does. I help them grow their business. But then they go, hey, I'm bored out of my mind. I'm traveling all the time, eating out every night. My kids are going to private school, and we're busy. We got the kids. We're going to every soccer game. We're going, you know what I mean? They're super overscheduled, and they tell me, I want to get off this ride. Do you see that a lot where guys are making financial abundance and they still feel empty? Does that happen? Absolutely.
It happens all the time.
Often?
And they're looking for something that really satisfies their heart. That really, it doesn't happen unless, first of all, you figured out who you are. And I see a lot of men, and I didn't learn this until my mid-40s, but they're just reacting to the demands of their environment. Whether it's at work, in their society, or their extended family, they're just always reacting. And guess what? When you're always reacting, guess what you're not doing? You're not leading. Okay? So you don't lead. You lead best out of who you are. I get a chance to coach some of the most phenomenal people, and I think one of the reasons they come to me is because I have embraced who I am.
Agreed.
I'm pretty ordinary, but I've embraced that, and it helps me be real.
Your client list, and again, it's a private thing. It's something you don't share. I'm just telling you 2 people that referred you. There's many super successful people. And I keep people. This is how they describe you. And by the way, I would describe you as Tulsa's Fabio. But men in Tulsa say he's kind of like Yoda. And I was like, how's he like Yoda? They say he like asks me questions as opposed to stating things. He sort of keeps me captivated. I like him. It's kind of motivational, but at the same time, I'm learning. It's like there's accountability, and I'm going, I don't get it. So I wanted to have you on the show because I wanted to see if we could tap into some of that a little bit. Josh, you had a hot question for Dave because there's so many people that, again, look to Dave as a mentor. We got him right here in the studio. This is some good stuff here. What question would you have for Dave?
So, Dave, I've heard you mention 2 or 3 times now in the interview that getting men to define themselves or getting to know themselves. So for our listeners out there and not able to get with you or meet with you, what's an actionable thing they can do to begin to define themselves or get to know themselves?
Well, the first thing we really start out with is we call them drivers. What are the abilities that actually energize your heart? Not just abilities you're good at doing, but what makes your heart pump? And that I think that's what gets guys off track. Is they're trying to do so many different things, when in reality most of these guys have about 10 or so abilities that really energize their heart.
True.
And they don't do those things.
I agree.
When they actually start doing those things, and they start to weed out some of the things that are marginal.
Oh yeah.
And we call these things greens, yellows, and reds. Green abilities energize your heart. Yellow abilities are neutral. You can be very good at a yellow ability, but they're neutral. And then you got red abilities that drain you. They actually can start to drain you before you start using them. And guys get so sucked into using their yellows and yellows and reds most of the time, and it really starts to affect how they feel about things. They start having all these negative emotions about life. It starts to affect their marriage, their parenting, their relationships. They kind of go into hiding, pretending, posing.
I have 2 examples I've seen of this, and I'll try to speak vague there, Wes, so I don't get myself in trouble, so I don't throw anyone under the bus, but they're good examples. One guy I know very well is good at basketball, like very good, like pro level. And we were talking one day, and he says, I hate basketball. And I'm going, what? I mean, because if you think of him, you think of basketball. And he says, yeah. I'm just good at it, but I've always hated it. I don't like the culture in the locker room. I'm more artistic kind of guy. I don't like the bravado. I don't like who I have to pretend to be because I have to kind of like not get intimidated, so I have to intimidate. I don't even like the applause. Don't like the travel. Like, what do you like doing? Well, he makes a list of stuff he likes to do. We're talking about it. Totally opposite of what he's doing. Now, this is at the pro level. True story. So what do you want to do, man? It's like the shortest coaching client of all time. It's crazy. So I just want to stop and get a job and just see my wife. Because we travel. You play pro ball. You're gone all the time. And overseas, that kind of thing. And it's the craziest thing, but you would have thought it was his green. You would think this is what you do because he makes green doing it. And he perceived you see him like, you see him making big dunks and you see him scoring. You think he loves it, but it's all show. And walking away from the show was where he really found his thing. And that was one. And then another one was a buddy of mine who always wanted to be a pro musician, and make big bucks, top 40 guy, and work as part of a top 40 organization. And that's what he did. He got a job on the traveling top 40 music circus, essentially traveling around big stadiums, traveling all around the world. And we did a call. I talked to him. And I'm like, you enjoying it? No. Why? Helicopters, private jets, going out to dinner, pretty girls, the whole thing. I'm not into it. What I want to do is just like lead praise and worship at a local church and get a job. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, seriously, I like basketball. I love playing basketball like with a church league. And I haven't done that in like 5 years, and I'm almost 40 now. I got to get out of here. And so I just, these kind of conversations, I wanted to ask you, and then I know Wes has got more questions for you. Do you see a lot of guys who forever, because they're good at something, they've misconstrued something that actually sucks the soul out of them as a green just because they're good at it, quote unquote? Have you seen this?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. And one of the things that we hear a lot after guys have gone through this process is, I'm finally free to be who I am. Mm-hmm. Finally free to be who I am. And it's so rewarding to see that. And these are guys who are high achievers. But what happens is the longer they spend time doing those yellows and reds, then they find themselves in their late 30s, early 40s, and they know they've got to make a change, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And now they've got an income level, a lifestyle that they feel like they've got to support.
They're trapped in it now.
They're trapped. And you know what happens to an animal when they're trapped? They don't behave well. And this is what happens to men. And they don't have any hope. They feel like, and now they're thinking about, how do I keep doing this and put my kids through college? Retire. They really feel like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be stuck here.
I talked to a lady. Again, this show's going to come out in June, so she won't know who I'm talking to. But I talked to a lady today, who her and her husband have a business, and it's done well financially, but they've got Wes. I'm sure you've seen this. They've got a schedule where it's like every night there is a kid event. Mm-hmm. And the conversation today was their kids don't like the events. They don't like going to the events. And they're expensive. And they both work full time to support the industrial complex of private school, private sports. And so the conversation was, well, Clay, with you and Vanessa, what's your take on that? And I was like, well, I can't speak. I'm not a life coach. I just teach business stuff. But I can say we send our kids to Metro. That's what they do. One of our kids goes to St. Augustine, but we send them to private school before we used to homeschool. But I got 3 that are really into sports right now and 2 that aren't. And I don't know. I've never felt this pressure to be overscheduled, but I hear a lot of people that are like that. And just even bringing up the idea, Wes, that they don't have to be in every sport to be a good parent. It seemed almost jarring.
Yeah, and maybe I can relate this a little bit to myself personally. We're talking about green, yellows, red. So I'm an attorney, obviously. But one of the reasons I got into practicing law was I enjoy solving problems, being a peacemaker, finding solutions. And so when I have to go into a fight, I'm a good fighter. I'm good at fighting, but I hate doing it. So when I wake up that morning and I know I'm in for a fight, I got to go to court and fight. I'm going to fight in deposition. I'm in a bad mood, And if I'm doing it a couple of days in a row, I'm short with my kids. My wife tells me, quit talking to me like I'm on the stand and you're cross-examining me. And so
put down the weapon.
Right. So I can understand just because you're good at it doesn't mean that's something that you have to keep doing. That's really relatable. One of the things I'm curious about here is there some nuance between what your drivers are and what makes you happy? Because a lot of times we hear find what makes you happy and go do it. But it sounds like you have a little more meat on the bone, so to speak, when you're talking about the drivers and the green, yellow, reds. Is there a correlation there, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the reason we actually hit the drivers first as we take a guy through our process is because I believe that if they don't figure that out, they're going to run out of gas. And even if they have a mission in mind or they have some other interests, they're not going to be able to do those things with a great attitude and in a healthy way. So we do that, but then once you figure out your drivers, then the rest of your design speaks to where you use those drivers. Who do you want to help do what? What are some areas of interest that you'd love to employ in helping other people? What is your personality like? How does that all fit in? So what's so amazing about this is that we're uniquely made, and we're not just a one-dimensional person. We have all these different aspects of who we are, and I love helping guys understand you're more than just your abilities. And so what are? But let's make sure you get that right and start working on it. And it's just been so wonderful. I got a guy right now that he was living in his reds. He's what I'd call a AAA, not a Type A, but a AAA. Tightly wound.
Yeah.
He was dying when I first started meeting him, and when he started to realize that there's reds, greens, and yellows, he realized that he was living in his reds and yellows. He's gotten intentional about weeding those things out now over time, as he can, and it's just changed his life, just in like 6 months. And he actually wants to start talking about this to groups of people. So does that answer your question?
It does. I guess that was part of the question was, are your greens what make you happy, or are doing your greens what make you happy? But I guess it's a chicken and the egg thing.
What's a green? How would you define a green?
Okay, a green's for me. Like I love to advise, guide, mentor, coach, relationship build, and connect people to each other. Now, when I was actually in charge of building a department of supply chain, it was the first time in my life, in my 40s, when I realized I wasn't using those things primarily. And I actually made a decision about 45 to get serious about using the things that really energized my heart in leading this organization. Well, it ended up being the most effective time of my life, career-wise. I mean, as far as corporate life.
Yeah.
And even the chairman of the corporation sent me an email saying, you've accomplished more productive change in this company than anybody, including me, because I started to shift toward using who I was rather than all the other things I had learned to do. Now, I still did some of those, but I did more and more of these things that were my drivers.
So you I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, what I like about your approach is that you say we're all uniquely made, right? So, for instance, Clay's example, the people who are tired of going to games and practices, that's different for everyone. For me, this is my favorite part of the week. I can turn off. I can shut off my phone.
It's interesting, but that's, again, the same activity. It doesn't mean it's
Right.
unethical to like going to your kids' things or to not.
It's not a good or bad, but we're all individuals that you take into account, what your particular drivers are.
I think a lot of people are not comfortable with the idea that you and I could be sane people and entirely disagree on what we like to do and still be okay with being buddies. I think a lot of people feel like we have to, as a culture, all agree. Here we go. We're all going to agree that all of us need to have 2 kids. We all need to aspire to send them to private school. We got to overschedule all of them or under. I mean, I think as a culture we feel. Do you see that too, Dave? Where people feel like everybody needs to send their kids to college. Everybody's got to go to Disney World. It's like we're all going the same.
Well, they aren't leading themselves. They're just reacting to the demands, the inferred demands of their culture. And guess what? When they're doing that, they're teaching their kids not to lead themselves.
I talked to a guy the other day that was I'm old enough to say the other day when I mean a year ago, but I talked to a guy a while back at a conference who was telling me that he goes, "You sound like Jim Gaffigan." And I go, "Well, okay, thank you." But the people mention that a lot. He's a comedian guy, he does different voices. And so I said, "Well, thank you." He goes, "But there's a routine he does about taking his kids to Disney World. And have you heard it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, because basically, Dave, this is Jim Gaffigan's take on Disney World. He's a comedian. He has a bunch of kids. I think he has 6 kids. His take was he went to Disney World. He saved all of his money to go to the surface of the sun where he waited in line and sweated while waiting for overpriced food and then leaving without money and upset.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it going, that's right. That's how I feel. I can't stand it. As a kid, I didn't like it. But yet other people I know loved it. And so this guy at the conference comes up to me and he's like, "Did you like going to Disney World?" And I'm like, "No, I did not." He goes, "Finally, somebody who shares their dislike for Disney World with me." And it's interesting how, again, I'm not saying going to Disney World's bad or good, but I like that you sit down with people and help them figure out their red lights, their green lights, the yellow lights. Now, somebody out there says, "I am married and things are not going well. I love her. I'm committed. Things are not going well." I understand you have workshops for couples.
Yes.
What does that look like? Is it woo-woo? Is it like watching couples retreat? Is it weird? What is it like?
Well, we actually coach couples. We love coaching couples.
Okay.
My wife and I do. We've had couples retreats. I love the way we do couples retreats is we find someone who's willing to invite some of their friends who are ready for this. If they're willing to invite some of their peers, their close-in friends, we'll come and facilitate it. We'll give them some structure and so forth. But it's usually a small retreat.
Does it take a couple days?
Usually 2 days, and usually about 4 to 6 couples.
How many hours of training? What kind of interaction is there?
Oh, man, there's probably about, maybe 8 hours of interaction.
Okay.
And what's really great is they're interacting with each other on what they're learning about their design, their drivers. And then also we had them look at what's your passions.
I am entirely uncomfortable with this conversation, but I continue to press in. I have friends of mine who swear by these couple retreats, and I have a hard. I don't know. But they swear. They say, "Clay, you should go," and I go, "I don't know about this." They say you should go. It's the best. And so I think somebody wants to know, what are we doing at these retreats? What are you doing?
Well, it's really for couples who are fairly healthy.
Okay.
We aren't trying to fix marriages. Okay.
Cut me out. Just kidding. No, it's good. All right.
Yeah. So, what was their appeal to being a better sounding board for your spouse?
Okay.
Well, all of us have a hard time saying no usually to the right things and saying yes to the right things. And oftentimes we as couples can be great sounding boards for each other if we better understand how each other are wired. We kind of think we know, but oftentimes we don't have the language to kind of say, "Hey, is that really a best use of who you are? And going on that board or getting involved with that business."
Oh, you hit something. You hit that. You just said this is Clay Stairs. Do you know who Clay Stairs is?
Oh yeah,
I love Clay Stairs. Clay Stairs. We were driving together out to the new land to see construction of the new place.
Yeah.
And Stairs will be moving in with us, and it looks like Living Water. Josh will come visit us there once a week, and then we've got Randy with PMH OKC. I think wants to build a big outdoor staycation out there to display his stuff. It's gonna be a fun place. And Stairs and I were driving, and he says, "Hey, Shepherd's Fold wanted me to ask if you wanted to serve on a board, and without asking you, I said no, but I feel like I should at least clarify that I said no. Are you cool with that?" And I go, "Oh yeah." Now, I can say this having come out on the other side of I said I was Wes, I know you've had some accolades with your career, but when you have an award or some things happen, you get asked to volunteer. And Junior Achievement said, "Mr. Clark, could you volunteer to speak to the students of Broken Arrow High School 1 hour?" And I go in there and I delivered the best hour that I could possibly deliver. Oh, I prepared. And I probably gave a C- performance because I was 21 years old. And I won the Entrepreneur of the Year award. And I was highly motivated, highly caffeinated, really no destination I was taking them to, just fired up. And the kids left because they cheered. He's like, "He's only 3 years older than us. Come back." But I was pretty bad. And so Miss Farquhar called me and said, "The kids loved you. Maybe if you had a little more direction. But we liked you. Could you come back next week?" Then the teacher across the hall, I think Mrs. Hill was her name, she said, "Could you speak to my class? That's 2 hours on." And then 3. And pretty soon, one of the people higher up said, "We hear there's kids who are wanting to come to this entrepreneurial class because you come once a week. Could you do it all day?" So without asking my wife, because I'm a classy man, I said yes.
Yeah.
Great move.
So now I'm there at the high school for years, Wes. Literally, if you asked Vanessa, I think it was like 6 hours a week, every week, on the 1 day a week, for maybe more than 5. I want to push the number of years down in my mind, but I think it's higher. But it might have been like 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
And then Vanessa said to me one time, "Hey, after you spend those 7 hours a day mentoring other people's kids, why don't you find an hour a day to mentor our own kids?" And I thought, you're just using facts now. These are just harsh words. So I had to dial back my game, but I was also the head of the Bridal Association. I served on like some ITEX committee of some kind, some networking group. I don't know what I was the Wedding Association, the American DJ Association. Wes, have you ever felt pulled to volunteer for a lot of stuff?
Oh.
And you feel like you're winning the game only to come home and recognize that you have forgotten your wife's name?
Well, maybe not her name.
Oh,
but,
okay. Well, that's I went too far.
I forget a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's especially with charity work. I mean, as much as it feels good to give back, charity work by nature sucks you in deeper and deeper and deeper. Because they're so thirsty for help in a lot of areas that
deeper.
A board seats then turns into a committee chair, then turns into this other charity needs help too. And it comes back to, I think, something you mentioned earlier, which is knowing when to say no, realizing what to say yes to, what to say no to.
Oh, man. Pretty soon you're picking up like vegetable trays every night of the week, dropping them off. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You're picking up, in the kids' games, too, you could be like the sponsor dad who brings the beverages to all the games. And we can get pulled.
Yeah, and so if you don't know when to say no, you find it becoming less rewarding and more of a burden, which is not how you should feel about, I think, doing charity work. I mean, getting out, maybe it turns maybe you're from a green to a yellow or red, even though it's the same activity because you've gone outside the scope of what you want to do.
Well, I coach people all over the world who are involved in missions.
Yeah,
and what I've learned is the mission doesn't carry you. It can be a great mission, but you were designed to operate a certain way within that mission. And if you aren't doing that, you'll burn out. And I've had a lot of those people on my doorstep involved with a great mission.
Yep.
But they got sucked into getting away from their design. And once they figured that out, that they weren't a dirt ball because they're burned out, but they just made some mistakes in how to use who they were.
I have a few final questions. I know Andrew has questions too. Andrew is a young whippersnapper. He's 21 years old. He's been on our payroll for 3 years, and he now has a house. He has a rental house. He and his wife are happily married. No kids yet, and he works with a lot of clients that are twice his age. And he sees, I'm sure, I've never talked to him about this, but I'm sure he's seen some of his clients overscheduled, overbooked, red lights, yellow lights everywhere. So I'd like to get his questions for you as well. But I want to ask you the rude questions that probably I shouldn't ask, but here we go. Do you charge for this?
I don't.
You don't?
Now, some of our coaches do. We have a group of we have several coaches around the country.
How is the organization solvent? How do you? Because I hear so many people who say, "I went to your course." How does that work?
Well, a bunch of businessmen and friends of mine back in 2004 saw what was going on with what I was doing, and they said, "We believe in this." And they actually challenged me. They said, "We think you ought to go do this full time, not your consulting gig you've been doing on this." As a way of making a living, but do this full time, and we don't think you need to charge for it.
Really?
So that was going to make for an interesting conversation at home.
Yeah.
And it took about a month to work through all that internally for myself. And when I finally decided to step into this, what I found out that they wanted to fund it.
Really?
Yeah. And but they kind of let me hang for a while.
Now,
make sure you're committed.
Now the guys, and I know some of these guys who talked about, no one's told me how much they funded or why they funded it. It's more of like, it was more of, we believe in this. It's free. It's been paid for. And I'm going, by who? What kind of a nut job pays for another man's personal development that he might never meet? Who? And they go, you got to check it out. And so I keep hearing that, and so that was sort of I needed to hear that because I couldn't figure. I thought, is this a cult that has like a 50-year play? You know what I mean? A lot of times these scams, they usually get they end Wes like in 2 or 3 years. But I'm like, maybe this is a 40-year scam, and the shoe hasn't dropped yet. But then I heard these guys who actually had gone through the program, took their money, and put it into it. Then it sort of validated. Okay, this makes a little sense. I was a little bit worried there for a while.
Yeah, so it sounds like people that have benefit from the program want to pass that on to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like an endowment.
That's a pretty good endorsement of the program, right? In and of itself, right there.
Well, what's really special is that they've never had any strings attached to it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when people donate big chunks of money, they want strings.
True.
I've never had any strings. For 15 years, we've been fully funded.
Wow.
Okay, and
huge.
I'm the worst fundraiser in the world. Okay, but what I think what has really helped is I've really tried to never use people, never use relationships, never kind of shinny up to somebody pretending I'm their friend, but just really wanting something from them. And I think that's made a big difference.
I hear that people in big positions of political power reach out to you for help. And you always hear little whispers. They're like, oh, this guy, he's working with Dave. And I'm going, what? It seems like you're working with a lot of people. Just to give some, and I'm not asking for names because I know how you want to keep that private, but you work with business owners. You work with political leaders. Am I correct? Business owners, political leaders, people who are high up in the game of life, people that are just starting out all over the field. Am I correct?
Yes.
And so if somebody wants to sign up for your program or learn more, where do they go?
They go on our website and say, hey, we're interested in being coached.
So we go to, make sure I got the website here.
Your1degree.com.
Your1degree.com. Wes, people have told me, mainly Andrew has told me, not out loud, just more of a verbal cue, or it's more of a I picked up on ESP.
Telepathic.
He's told me that if I hit this button and I say a website 7 times, people never forget it with a megaphone. So let me try it here. Check out your1degree.com. That's your1degree.com. That's your1degree.com. Your1degree.com. Check out. Is this enough for you, Andrew? Check out Your1Degree. You made this happen. Your1degree.com.
Yeah, this is all me.
Your1degree.com. Your1degree.com. And then I realized Andrew never said this to me at all. This is just me. But it worked. Did it not? Andrew, did it work?
Yeah.
Do we create a neural pathway? Does somebody have this in their mind? Okay, that's correct. So, Andrew, you work with clients, many clients who are coming into new money.
Yeah,
They've
true.
never had success financially. They don't come to us for life coaching. They come to us to help them grow a business. They do it. I think last year our average client grew by 104% was their growth rate in terms of revenue. Where do you see clients kind of maybe needing a little Dave?
Yeah, so one thing I do see a lot is that when we're helping clients, they're, like Clay said, they're finding new money, new revenue, new income coming in. That also a lot of times comes with a lot of time freedom. And so I see a lot of times somebody will choose one thing and then hop to the next thing and then hop to the next thing and then hop to the next thing and then keep going and keep going. So I'm curious if you ever see that as like a good thing, or is that more of them just looking for their green lights, or are they just hopping from red light to red light? And then with somebody like that who is hopping around very often, whether it's like a new hobby or a new thing, a new business idea, a new thing. Is this ever a good thing, or like what is the next step? What should they be focusing on? Should they be picking one thing? Should they continue to hop around until they land on their green lights, or what? What practical things should somebody be doing if they find themselves in that hopping stage where they're just looking for something new all of the time?
Well, I actually like, especially in your 20s, is try a lot of things. Get out there and try things. Like that's how you learn. But what oftentimes I don't see is they aren't taking time to reflect on what they've been learning. They kind of keep repeating cycles. They kind of keep even keep doing some green, yellows and reds just to kind of keep busy. But they haven't learned criteria for making decisions. But those early 20s, those 20s are really a great time. You got the energy, you got the drive, you got the passion. Get out there and do stuff. I oftentimes say, you don't be as dumb about this in 6 months as you are today. Okay, the only way you're going to get smarter is you try stuff.
I would say kind of a pro tip I'd give the listeners is if you're watching the video version, look at it this way. Let's say that this block of wood right here represents things that are good. This is taking you closer to the end. This is traction. You're getting closer to your goals going this way. This way would be the distraction, okay? We're going to go this way is the traction. This way is the distraction. So you get out a sheet of paper, you write down traction, all right? And you put an arrow going to the right, and you put distraction, an arrow going to the left. And every morning you write down your goals for your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, your friendship, your fun. We talk about the F6, faith, family, finance, fitness, friendship, fun. And then this is what's going to happen. This just happened today, Wes. This is real stuff.
Okay.
Somebody who I do not want to be my literary agent, who represents people that I disdain, has reached out to me to represent me on a project.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it because it takes me away from my libertarian Judeo-Christian worldview. I know the kind of books they write. It's not going to happen for me, But I could, but it would be a distraction. Another example. A young lady we interviewed about 3 weeks ago, group interview. She says, Mr. Clark, Andrew, you see the group interview. We interview a lot of candidates every week. And you see a few of them who have the game. There's a few women who have played the game. Not a lot, but a few.
Yep.
And she says, could you follow me out to my car real quick? I had a few other questions about the job. This is after, like, everyone's kind of leaving, Andrew. You know what I'm talking about. We all try to leave at the same time. And no, the Billy Graham rule. Another example, people email me all the time. Today, probably 100 times, usually 50 to 100 times a day, asking me, can we meet? Could you call me? Could you call? And I have this sweet feature I use. It's the delete feature. It's so sweet. And I just delete, and I don't feel bad because they're not paying me. They're not my friend, and they're not paying me. So I just hit delete because I know if I hit respond, then they're going to send another email like, well, and again, another example, a speaking event. I got asked to speak this week in September in the great state of California at this event, and I said no today. Why? Because it's not on my list. And so it's like what you say no allows you to grow, but you got to think, am I getting closer to my traction or my distraction? So tonight, the kids are at cheerleading until 9 o'clock tonight, so I'll be editing some podcasts, and that's traction. But if I were to edit podcasts last night when the kids were at home, that would be distraction because that's when my scheduled time with my kids. So tonight I'm going to turn on my remote. This is my wood block remote. Boop, boop. I'm going to turn on the hot tub because I know my wife's coming home at 9, and I'm going to attempt to hit on her at 9 o'clock at night. And so, but the thing is, I got to get the hot tub going at 7. That's that's traction, hitting the button. Boop, boop. But it would be distraction to hit the hot tub when my kids are home, when they're expecting dad time. Last night, watching Wizard of Oz, my wife knows when she turns on old movies like the Moses movie with Charlton Heston or Wizard of Oz. That's code for me to sleep. So she hits the button and I fall asleep because I don't like it. But we have that relationship where that would be a distraction for me to stay up late night watching Wizard of Oz for the 47th time.
Especially when you get up at 3:30.
Yeah. But you know what, though? Is that in some families watching Wizard of Oz is traction. That's getting closer as a family. Some people, for me, it's just not a good thing. So you got to figure out with your spouse right now your goals, right, for your faith and your family and your finance. I mean, do you see a lot of people thinking they're gaining traction, Dave, but they're actually they're actually pursuing a distraction?
Absolutely. They're not, again, leading themselves. They're not even paying attention to who they are. They're kind of trying to do whatever other people are doing, and versus what they should be doing. and it's just it's just a trap.
I appreciate you for joining us in our trap here. I have trapped you. I brought you in the man cave. I appreciate this because seriously, so many people have told me you got to have Dave on the show, and I've been hearing this for a long time. And I appreciate all the work you've been doing, helping real people unlock their potential. I think it's awesome. Helping people figure out their sense of purpose. And I keep hearing from people that have run billion-dollar companies, multi-million-dollar companies, people who have been the political leaders of states and governments telling me the good things about you. So, again, thank you for making the poor life choice to be here on the show today.
I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom. So here we go. Oh, Steve Currington's in the room. Wow. And the Domino's King is in the room as well. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. What if you could gain access to download each and every book that I've ever written for free?
Well, that'd be terrible because I don't like you.
Okay, we're making a big assumption here. But assuming that you do like me and you like the Thrive Time Show, you can now go to thrivetimeshow.com /free-resources. That's thrivetimeshow.com /free-resources to download each and every book that I've ever written for free. You can download the ebook version of each and every book that I've ever written for free.
Clay, I just want to chime in here real quick. I don't like you or capitalism. I feel like we should all get free stuff.
Well, I am in the process of explaining where you can get free stuff. And you can now also download all the helpful infographics. There's infographics on Firing 101, the perfect hiring system, the principles from Ray Dalio, Internet Marketing 101, the Lead Bin Management System, Managing Humans 101, Logo Creation 101, Why Google Loves WordPress, Time Management 101. We also have an incredible infographic about the importance of calling your leads often, because the average person no longer answers their phone unless they are called multiple times and unless they receive a text from you. We also have the importance of File Nomenclature 101, Sales Lead Conversion 101, and much, much more. And it's all available for you to download for free right now by going to thrivetimeshow.com.
Are you suggesting that I should have to move my body?
Yes.
This is for free. Isn't there a way you could just beam it? I mean, why do I have to move my body?
Because
typing causes me anxiety.
Whatever.
Which is why I would never go to thrivetimeshow.com.
Come on.
/free-resources. I would never go to thrivetimeshow.com /free-resources.
All right, let me clarify. If you have the capacity to move your fingers, go to thrivetimeshow.com /free-resources to download an ebook version of every single Amazon best-selling book I've ever written and all the infographics that have the power to change your life.